Hello. Hello, everyone. So it's Friday morning, and I'm here again with Tashi this time. So, we've just finished looking at the five Buddhas, and I thought we might start looking at the aggregates, the heaps that make us up and that we take so seriously that we create a self out of. So let's see how this goes. It's a beautiful day. It's still sunny. I think that's going to change over the weekend. But, in a way, we've been really lucky because this week we've had sun most of the week. And it was a good start for us being confined at home to have had that lovely weather. So the aggregate of form is not the self. Even though we believe the body is the self, there is no body that possesses its parts. And because there are many parts, when we examine with reasoning, we know the body is not the self. So that's a verse from a particular text by Khenpo Sultrim Gyamtso. The aggregate of the body is not the self. Even though we believe the body is the self, there is no body that possesses its parts. And because there are many parts, when we examine with reasoning, we know the body is not the self. So we don't examine with reasoning. That's the point, isn't it? That we take our body for granted and that we think we own it. We own our body. Well, of course, we don't own our body. We don't really have half as much control over the body as we think we do. And I think, in a way, we discover that in all sorts of ways. We certainly discover it when we're ill. So I certainly used to identify myself with somebody who didn't get ill. And as I've got older, I can see that that's a kind of identity that I have to give up because. There was a time that I had shingles, and that was a very big change in my life because I realised that I'd always been terribly healthy, but I couldn't really just take that for granted. It wasn't necessarily going to be how it would be forever. So, it was a bit of a shock to me, really, to find that I could be that ill. Also, getting old, I think, is quite a teaching in how it doesn't matter how much you look after yourself, how healthy you are, the body changes. Here I am old and wrinkly and it's the colour goes out of your hair and basically your body changes in ways that you would prefer it not to. But our view of our body goes much deeper than that as well. It goes much deeper into this identification of having some kind of nugget, you could say, of something that seems distinctly us, distinctly how we are. And sometimes we can identify that as being maybe our personality, our soul, our essence. And maybe we hope that it will carry on beyond this lifetime. Or maybe we distinctly think that it will never carry on and that earth to earth, dust to dust, ashes to ashes, and that's all there is. Well, what Buddhism says is that awareness is completely indestructible. But that's mysterious and that's for another time. So back to our body. I mean, something that we can do in meditation from time to time is just look to see where is this soul, where is this part of ourself that seems to be the self. So, is it in our head? Is it in our heart? Where does it reside? And of course, the more you look for it, the more you realise that it can't be found. You can't find anything. It's certainly not part of the body because actually we can lose most parts of our body. And and still feel like ourselves. You know, we can lose limbs. You can even have a heart transplant, a lung transplant, and still, you know, we feel that there is some essence. So Buddhism says there's no unchanging self. You know, all there is this provisional self, this view that we have of ourself, this personality that we identify with. And but ultimately, there's nothing that's unchanging. And that's very exciting from a Buddhist point of view, because it means that we can change. It means that we can grow and change and develop and eventually attain Buddhahood. Perhaps most people believe that we can change a little bit, but I don't know that many people believe we can totally transform ourselves. And well, it needs unpacking really as to what that means. You know, that we could totally transform ourselves. But I do believe that that is true. I think it takes a lot of time and probably many lifetimes. But yeah, I can certainly see ways that I've substantially changed in the last 20 years, last 25 years, tremendously so. And that's very encouraging. It's very encouraging to think that I can change. I don't think I changed in the ways I thought I would change. So that's another thing. We can't predict how we'll change. Because the ways that we would like to change, or the person we would like to be, is well, it's probably really somebody else. It's probably not us. It's probably some other person. So we will change, but we can't always see how that will be. So the body is not the self, even though we believe the body is the self. There is no body that possesses its parts. And that's all it is. It's a conglomeration of parts that have come together from causes and conditions. And when those causes and conditions change, eventually they will dissolve back into the earth. Perhaps I'll leave it there for today. I'll see you tomorrow.